Hello everyone, I'm Daniel, and good afternoon. We're going to talk a bit more about True Solo today because I'm going to start a new True Solo run on my channel very soon, like in a couple days. So let's talk about what I think are 5 exceptionally good cards at level 0 for you to include into a True Solo deck. And as you know, as you've probably played the game and thought about the different cards and their kind of niche in the game, there are a lot of cards that say you can only use them when there's another investigator in the game. Things like Safeguard, things like Stand Together, things like Blackjack, which really does nothing if you don't have another investigator. There's not a whole lot of cards that are really outstanding and maybe just made for solo because you can play a lot of them in multiplayer games as well, and they do something that's, pretty good and maybe even just as good as in solo. Today, I want to point out the ones that I think shine in true solo. Although they're good elsewhere, I think the nature of the game and the fact that there's just one investigator, there's not as many clues on the board, there's a lot of movement that you need to do, really makes these cards worthwhile. I'm going to do, as I usually do in these list videos, one card per class, and it doesn't mean that there's only one card that I picked that's particularly good in that class, but rather it's just a one I wanted to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get started with honorable mention to Duke right behind me, who's really good in true solo, really good. All right, let's go. Number one is Guardian. We're just doing it class order. It's Alice Luxley. She originally came out in the Circle Undone, and there's an upgrade to her in the Drowned City. So if you missed out on Circle Undone and you have the level 2 version, great. But I'm just picking out level 0 cards for now in this video, and she has a lot of things that you really want in True Solo. First, in Guardian, if you're playing Guardian or off class that has access to Guardian, you really like to have a +1 intellect. You're going to do a lot of investigation in this game. There's not a whole lot of ways around that, and the most common way to do this is with basic investigates. So having that bring you from a 3 to a 4 in many Guardians, or potentially a 4 to a 5 in some other Guardians. Even the ones that have a 2, you might punch this up with a bit more. I mean, that's probably not great, but so many Guardians have 3, so you might think about this just for the static boost. There aren't that many static boosts in Intellect for Guardians, or even many other classes as well. But that's just one part of her. You're paying for not just the +1 and the 2/2 soak. It's also this really cool compression that happens that's really neat in True Solo. After you discover a clue, exhaust Alice Luxley, deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. Now, in multiplayer, mostly people talk about this as being kind of interesting and cool when there's 1 damage that can be dealt to like a whippoorwill or some other aloof enemy. Maybe you go first, you do 1 damage to a 3 health enemy that is engaged to some other investigator at your location, or maybe it's just like a 1 health enemy in general that you can just pick away at. But this can actually be repeatable damage, like almost like a vicious blow for true solo investigators. Now, it's awkward in the level 0 version. If you're taking an investigate action, you're going to get hit by the enemy that's engaged with you, if that's what's going on here. And then you get the clue, you deal the damage, then you start fighting. And that's not bad. That actually does a lot. Level 2 version does protect you from an attack of opportunity, so that's really good. You can find other ways of discovering clues, though. You don't have to investigate to get the clue to get her extra damage. You can just do fast clue discovery, like working a hunch if you are, say, Joe or Carolyn, or I suppose also with Roland Banks, who might be getting a clue from his own ability after defeating another enemy, and some reason there's another enemy at your location still, you get to deal that extra damage. So that's pretty neat. Even if you're going to take the attack, I don't think it's so bad. Most enemies only do 1 and 1. She can help you soak. It's just the action compression that in True Solo is really important. So even though this feels like a little niche, a little weak, I think people coming from the mindset of only 1 damage and having to sequence your turn a particular way is awkward. I think in True Solo, you just go for it. You get attacked, oh well. Now, again, when I played Alice on the channel in True Solo, it was in skids, and I was getting clues by doing parlays, so that also avoids the attack of opportunity problem. All right, that's Alice. She's really great. If you haven't played her before, try it. it's really a cool card to add to your true solo repertoire. Moving to Seeker, I have Fieldwork here. This is from the Path to Carcosa. Hasn't seen any upgrades or reprints or anything like that yet. 2 cost asset. After you move to a location, if that location has at least 1 clue on it, exhaust Fieldwork, you get +2 skill value for the next test you perform this phase. Okay, in most plays, I think people think of this as a +2, and then you investigate, get that clue that was on the location. In True Solo, you get to use this in many other ways. That +2 skill value does not have to be for investigation. It could be you move into a location that has an enemy. Now you're fighting that enemy at +2 skill value. It could even be things like you move into a location and now take a test on a treachery that was in your threat area, or to get rid of a locked door, or any other scenario test that popped up. +2 generic skill value is very, very valuable in True Solo. You often need to do tests for stats that you're not good at. So why not get this repeatable? And you're always gonna be the only one who moves into locations, right? So it's not like someone moved into the location, got the clue first, and you say, wait a minute, I wanted to use my field work. Please, you shouldn't have gone first. It's all clear for you. And kind of a shout out at the same point to any card that cares about revealing locations or moving to locations. You're always going to be moving to them, so they go up in value for sure. So I didn't put any of the masks here, but the mouse mask is quite useful in True Solo as well. But I like this +2 generic skill value. You're going to use it. You're going to be testing everything. Even if you don't like testing willpower, you're going to have to. So it's really nice. The only limitation here is that it has to be the next skill test you perform this phase. So sometimes you move into a location and it makes you do a skill test as soon as you move in. You also can't bank it for a following turn. You can't bank it for a Mythos test later. It just has to happen that phase, which you can usually make work. Let's move on to the third one. This one is going to be the Rogue class, and it's surprise, surprise, Lone Wolf. It is the only card in the game that I can think of that has this huge benefit that's for solo. Like, there's no reason why you wouldn't take this if you have Rogue access, unlimited Rogue access especially. You get 2 resources every turn. There's basically no downside here. In 2 or 3 player, you have to do a little bit of thinking about sequencing of turns, but you usually can make it work okay. In True Solo, it's 1 action, 1 resource, slap this down, and now you're Jenny Barnes for the rest of the scenario. It's amazing. Granted, you need that help. You probably in Rogue can use that number of resources every round. You could probably do something with it, but there's no reason not to take this unless you're bored of it, but it's just a staple in True Solo. So not much more to say about this. It's just kind of an obvious one. For Mystic, I decided to go with the Dowsing Rod, and this is an awful lot like Duke the Dog. In True Solo, you need to move around. You have to move not necessarily every turn, but you have to visit every location on the map in most scenarios. And spending your time moving and then another action to investigate, which granted you have to do, is tough. It is tough to not get any sort of action compression there, which is why playing Ashcan Pete with Duke is so strong. You get that free move as part of the investigation. So Dowsing Rod is doubly strong because, well, everyone can take it, who's a mystic, of course, in True Solo. And you can get a benefit for either your willpower, which is most mystics, or potentially if you're building a intellect build, you can do a +1 there instead. Now, there's the downside of doing the movement is you have to place a doom on this thing. But the way that you get the doom off is that second ability. If this investigation discovers the last clue at a location, remove 1 doom from Dowsing Rod. So you have a way of clearing the doom that, again, no one else is going to be getting in your way to get rid of the clues. Also, the locations have just 1 clue on them most of the time, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, but very rare. So it's not too hard to line up your turns so you can get rid of the doom. Imagine your turn is something like, I move to a location, put the doom on the Dowsing Rod, get a clue. Now there's no more clues there. I can move 1 more time. use the investigation on the dowsing rod again to get rid of the doom. So that's 3 actions, right? And you basically get 2 moves and 2 investigates. It's essentially like an extra action every time, and there's this benefit of using a skill that you're probably a lot better at than you would have otherwise. So that's really nice. I think the upgraded dowsing rod is also pretty solid. It allows you to store the doom on it a little bit more and then just remove it all at once. So I actually think that's better even in true solo than it sounds. But yeah, it's expensive, level 4 for the upgraded charm, but still highly recommend it. It just makes scenarios go that much more quickly. There's a boon, there's an optional list in the FAQ of ways to make the game easier if you want. And the recommendation for true solo is to give yourself an extra move action every single round. I haven't played around with that too much because I'd like to explore the card pool a bit more. And I found that playing Mystic, playing Ashcan Pete, playing Pathfinder, right, in Seeker just sort of gets me the extra move I want anyway. But I think it's maybe more fun to play around with cards rather than just have this uh, extra skill, or sorry, extra bonus action every round for doing nothing. True solo is hard. It is a challenge, but the card pool can help you get there, which is the whole point of the video. Great card. I highly recommend it in basically anyone. You don't have to be running too much Doom stuff, but of course, if you are running at least this, you can throw in a mask or two, probably the cat mask, right, to help you even have a better skill value when investigating. Let's go to Survivor next. This is Live and Learn. Fast play. After a skill test you failed ends. After you resolve all effects of the failed test, attempt the test again. You get +2 skill value for the test. Okay. Why did I pick this and not Lucky, which is a very similar card from the core set that essentially gives you the +2 when you need it. When you would fail the test, you get the +2. This one is different because it costs 0 and you basically just retake the test entirely. You actually have to do all the bad stuff from the failed test, so that's not great. So why do I think this is better in true solo in particular? It's because of that pesky autofail. What often happens in true solo is you get into a bit of a mess and you have no one to bail you out. So you take some tests. You're trying to fight an enemy with Retaliate. You're trying to make sure he dies before he gets to the enemy phase and then hits you again. It can be really bad. Lucky's good because it can prevent you from failing on a -4 or -3, whatever you weren't trying to cover with the skill test to begin with. But what it can't help you with is the autofail. And what happens with an autofail is you lose your action, you lose whatever progress you were trying to make, and you're just sunk. So Live and Learn costs nothing, Lucky costs 1, and allows you to take the test again. Yes, you might get retaliated against from the enemy, but it gets you a bonus to try to hit one more time. You don't have to spend bullets from your gun. You don't have to spend supplies from your fingerprint kit. All that stuff is okay. You don't have to pay the costs for the test. You just take the test again. I think this is especially useful again when there's a test that requires you to do more things, like a cost of spending a different additional action or whatever it might be that you just can't make up again. In multiplayer, someone else can bail you out. Someone else can move into your location, take the enemy off of you, figure out some other way. But when your actions are at a premium in true solo, which they definitely are, I think Live and Learn makes the cut. At level 3, the Lucky that you get at level 3 is better probably because it can cover much more, draws you the card, costs you nothing. But at level 0, I really, really like Live and Learn. Now, beyond that, it has some cool synergies with Survivor cards like Look What I Found or Oops or Dumb Luck, which kind of gets you the best of both worlds. You get to do the thing that you want to do from failing and you get another chance at it. That stuff I think is just gravy on top of just the benefit here of protecting you from a single auto fail. Granted, you got to take the test again. You might draw another auto fail, but that is the chances you take in the game that we love. One last one in the neutral class, and it shouldn't be too surprising. It is Flashlight, level 0 card that I think upgrades very well to level 3, by the way, if you have, I'm pretty sure it's Scarlet Keys. But this one is just a single hand slot item that lets you get probably 3 clues. For 2 cost, it's a bargain. It sits there even when it's empty, so you can pitch it to other kinds of cards that you might have, like a unconventional method or catch or act of desperation in Survivor, or just a crypt chill that gets rid of empty assets. You're totally fine with having that just still on the board. But I think that one-handed tools or items in general are very valuable in true solo because you're trying to do a lot. You're trying to have something in one hand to get your clues and then another thing to deal with enemies, usually a machete in Guardian, but it could be all sorts of other things that you're playing. A single handed gun, fire axe, whatever it might be. Flashlight is really going to be a nice complement to whatever else you might have. So, this card really just says spend 1 supply and you get a clue. Because you should use this or aim to use this on cases where you're going to pass the test. Whether it's a 2 shroud location that becomes 0 shroud and then you cannot fail a test except for an auto fail, live and learn, or you're using it somewhere where you can be up 4. So as long as you're doing that and playing it that way, I think this card is just very good. And in true solo, you have, well, not that many clues on the board. You're on average needing only about 8 to 10 clues per scenario. Maybe not even that many, depending on where you are in the campaign. It might only be about 7. But guess what? This is 3 of them. And the other 4 you can cobble together in some other fashion, whether it's by skill cards. I was thinking very long and hard about perception being the card I wanted to put here, but I think flashlight just goes above and beyond in true solo, even if your investigator is like Nathaniel Cho and you have no other way to get clues. By the way, it's your Nathaniel Cho, maybe the crowbar makes this list instead, but hey, that's okay. I think as a core set card, this is just a staple. I don't think there should be the 10 copies or something like that that we have in the core set. I think that's a little absurd, but it's still very good compared to the fighting version in the card pool that we have in the core set. Knife, which is just not worth putting into your deck. I don't think at all. It's just not good enough. Whereas flashlight still makes the cut. If you can upgrade it, it helps you on evades too, which is really cool. But for investigations, that's what you need to do in this game. Flashlight is kind of it. All right, that's it. 6 cards, level 0, short and sweet. Thank you all for watching. I might do this again with level 1 plus cards. It gets a little bit harder because we'll be talking about lots of different classes and they do lots of different things. But let me know in the comments what cards you like to include in True Solo to really get yourself ahead on the game, and especially across the different classes, right? Because clearly no one outside of like Charlie or Lola can play all the cards I just talked about, but these are just some highlights, I think, when looking through the card pool. All right, see you next time, and see you on Sunday for Ashcan Pete playing through the Dunwich Legacy.